It's becoming more clear by the day that Donald Trump and one of his DOJ officials, Jeffrey Clark, committed the crime of conspiracy. What's the evidence supporting that conclusion? Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So it's no secret that Donald Trump has been desperately trying to overturn the election results. First, he sent all his second-rate lawyers into courtrooms around the country to attack the election. They lost virtually every case. They were figuratively laughed out of court by the judges. Some of the attorneys were sanctioned. Rudy Giuliani had his law license suspended for lying in both New York and Washington, D.C. So when that didn't work, Donald Trump, we now know, took another tack. He tried to enlist the help of Department of Justice officials to corruptly overturn the election results. What he did is he engaged in a conspiracy. Now, I was on MSNBC this morning with my friend Stephanie Ruhle, and as I sometimes do, I used a hypothetical and I pulled her in as a hypothetical co-conspirator to talk a little bit about the law of conspiracy. Because a conspiracy is simply an agreement between two or more people to commit crime. And one of the co-conspirators has to do something, has to take one step toward the commission of that crime. We call that an overt act. Once you have the agreement and one overt act, the conspiracy is complete. The crime has been committed. You don't have to succeed in ultimately committing the crime that you agreed to commit. Here's an example. This is what I did with Stephanie this morning. I said, Steph, let's assume you and I decide to rob a bank. And I go out and get a gun to use in the bank robbery. You go out and rent a car because we're going to use a rental car in the bank robbery. And the next day we decide to call it off. For whatever reason, we're not going to go through with it. You know what? We've already committed the crime of conspiracy to rob a bank. Why? Because we entered into a criminal agreement and we actually committed two overt acts. Each one of us took one step toward the commission of the crime. Me getting a gun, you renting a car. The crime of conspiracy is complete. It's been committed even though we didn't follow through and rob the bank. What do we now know Donald Trump and a DOJ official named Jeffrey Clark did? Donald Trump said, I want you all to go and say the election was corrupt, and you just let me take care of the rest with my Republican allies in Congress, even though there was no evidence to support that the election was corrupt. One of his DOJ officials took him up on it, Jeffrey Clark. He went back to the Department of Justice. He drafted a letter to elected officials in the state of Georgia, virtually telling them, we think the election was corrupt, and here is the roadmap by which you can reject Joe Biden's win and declare Donald Trump the winner. And he drafted up that same letter to go to 5 other states in furtherance of the corrupt scheme to try to overthrow the election. So that letter was then circulated among others in the Department of Justice, but it was never sent. But what do we have, folks? We have the criminal agreement between Donald Trump and, at a minimum, Jeff Clark, and we have Jeffrey Clark committing a number of overt acts in furtherance of that conspiracy, drafting the letter to 6 states total, circulating the letter, intending to send it. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Clark committed the crime based on the evidence that has been publicly reported, committed the crime of conspiracy. Now, we also learned that on Saturday, over the weekend, the Senate Judiciary Committee heard testimony for 7 hours from former acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, and we assume that Jeffrey Rosen downloaded all of this information, 7 hours worth, about how Donald Trump had been hounding him to try to corruptly overturn the election results. Now, here's what I will say. Call me a cynic. How often do we hear of senators working 7 hours on Sunday in August, unless they're campaigning for re-election? Okay, that was a little snarky. It seems to me that the Senate, our elected officials, are appreciating the urgency of what needs to be done. Now that the evidence is becoming more clear every day that Donald Trump criminally, corruptly, in a conspiracy with DOJ officials, tried to overturn the election results, tried to disregard the will of the American voters and have himself corruptly installed for a second term. Folks, this is something that needs more than just congressional hearings. This is something that needs more than just DOJ Inspector General investigations. This needs Department of Justice action. This needs a grand jury investigation. This needs an indictment. It needs a prosecution. It needs accountability. And it needs it right now. Because justice matters. And as always, friends, thank you for tuning into these daily videos. If you'd like to more formally support our efforts here, our mission, our content at Justice Matters, feel free to come over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron, and if you do, I will send you some Team Justice stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks. And as always, friends, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.